Hey guys, what's going on? Today I want to talk about Ret Warrior in threes, right? Why it's good, why it's so popular, how to play it, and then we're gonna go generally talk over some clips. I think I've got two games. If you enjoy that, what I might do is I might include more games over the week, or next week or something, because I've got a whole bunch of footage from it over the last sort of 3 weeks of playing it. So, what is Ret Warrior Disc? Why is it good? Or Ret Warrior Healer? So Rets and Warriors have a lot of synergy together. Firstly, Warriors provide the Mortal Strike, which Rets don't have. Reds provide freedoms. They provide a lot of utility with Blessing of Sank, which takes their healers out of stuns and silences and fears. They have a lot of off healing, and they have huge burst damage, which kind of lines up nicely with your sharpen. And you guys have like pretty easy instant cross CC, right? So you can stun, like you can use Hodge on the healer or on the kill target and Stormbolt the off target and then Fear off the off target, right? Which gives you a really nice little setup, so that you can smack down something, right? You just pump damage like that and sort of keep offensive all game. With the Rets off heals and certain legendaries like the protection legendary, they are very hard for an enemy team to kill. You mix that with the Warriors 2-minute commanding shout with a new talent, nerfs, blah blah blah. Intervene, banner, Sparrowflex, mass Sparrowflex, intervene Sparrowflex, all this kind of stuff. You guys peel each other really nicely, and when a warrior blade storms, like unhinged blade storms, while a ret's sort of like bursting down one target, it's really hard to deal with. And you can sort of decide the game a lot, right? So you can play really aggressive, which you normally do in the Ret Warrior Disc variant, or you can play pretty passive and dampen out a game, sort of rotating cooldowns way faster and sort of forcing people to run out of stuff, then eventually just killing them with one massive go of Wings and Bladestorm, which is sort of what the Ret Warrior Arsham variant does. So both are very viable, but what I tend to see work best is like the Ret Warrior H-Pal variant, because H-Pals obviously are insane. They have crazy healing, they've got good mana, they've got good cooldowns, and then you link that up with their offensive pressure with Repentance, Podge. They can keep their team offensive as well with Blessing of Protection, freedoms, all this kind of good stuff. So any of these healers work, they just require a different playstyle. I'd say Ret Warrior Disc is the most offensive playstyle, where you're really trying to get a kill, where you're really good at killing healers too, because you have a Dispel. Offensive Purge, right? Which you do with Arsham, but Arsham doesn't really have like the mind games, or the general damage, the Disc Priest bring with Dark Arc and stuff like that, Power Infusion on the Ret or the Warrior. So either are really good. I would generally say that you should try and play whatever you can find, like find the best healer you can and then slot them in there. And even stuff like Mistweave, it actually does work with that. I've seen a couple of those. Obviously, it's not the best variant. It has a very big, like significant disadvantage because it has Mistweaver in it. But even then, it can still work. The Druid variant works. It can make anything work, right? So what do your goes look like? You normally want to either stun like the kill target with either Hodge or Stormbolt, depending on whether your Ret can get to the healer and do the Hodge. If you can't, you want to Stormbolt the healer and then fear off that that Stormbolt, and then you probably want to have a Hodge on the kill target, right? This is all instant, and during that, your Ret pops his cooldowns. He forces, trinkets, he forces huge defensive cooldowns from the enemy team, and they're left really struggling to keep up. After that, you can play pretty defensive. Your Ret can start using his Holy Power to heal. You guys can kite and line with like stuff like Freedom, and for the perfect go, your Priest, Paladin, or whatever healer you're playing with would apply some type of cross CC onto the third target, right? So there's no way you can be peeled and everyone's taken out of the game. So if you have a disc, usually they'd fear, if you're going to go on a healer, they'd fear the 2 DPS and you'd Hodge the healer. If you have a Arsham, they would hex one of the DPS, you know, and you Stormbolt the other, two different people at the same time to do this really big go. Or you can use both your Stormbolts on a healer for like an extra DR stun at the end of the Hodge, which is still very valid. Like, it still will really tilt someone and it'll push someone over the edge if it's good. You obviously don't want to always DR stuff, but in Ret Warrior you can get away with a lot, because even that small second where they're not healing or interrupting that heal can force a much bigger cooldown than you normally get. Aside from that, what I think you're really strong into is, I feel like Ret Warrior is pretty decent into a lot of other melee cleaves, just because you have a lot of kiting potential. You're really decent into like melee caster cleaves. Melee caster in general, just because you have an easy target to hit. They can't really easily kill you quickly. It feels quite strong into RMP as well, especially with the HPAL variant. The only issue with the Disc Priest variant is that you can a Ret Warrior disc pretty considerably, and it's really hard to come back from that. That's the main issue with the Disc Priest variant. But aside from that, it's all pretty good. Which one would I say is the strongest? Is Ret Warrior HPAL. Next would be sort of equal between Ret Warrior Disc and Ret Warrior Arsham. Maybe the Arsham pulls ahead a little bit now with the Necrolord buff, or Necrolord Renown. And the fact that Disc Priest so quickly in Arena. What do I think is hard? I think certain caster cleaves are hard if you're not really coordinated. You can sort of get dragged out into the middle and then sort of just teed off on, while your disc or your HPAL just gets CC'd consistently. So you do really need to put a lot of effort into stopping those while staying offensive, and just understanding when you can be aggressive and when you have to be defensive. And that's something you'll get the feel for. I think this is probably the easiest comp to get Gladiator with, and even higher rating if you play a warrior and you have a Ret friend or a healer friend that you can sort of make this group on. It's super strong, it's super versatile. It doesn't really have an easy counter, and I feel like every single game you can win just because of how Ret's sort of burst goes, right? You just have to set up really nicely and pop them. So that's my thoughts on Ret Warrior Disc, or Ret Warrior HPAL, all these different variants. I'm going to go and jump into a couple clips. So jumping into the first clip here against TSG, might just cut into the first 10 seconds. So TSG is an interesting one for Ret Warrior Disc. They do have the mana advantage, but you have a crazy burst if you can avoid their big goes. So we sort of make the decision here, probably want to hit the Frost, right? So Warrior is going to be generally hard to kill. And we start off with a spear into a Warbreaker. I go and get the stun on the HPAL, and then I start Bladestorming, right? Both of these guys have to be pretty defensive now. My Ret's popped his wings. He's pumping out damage. Pillar of Frost comes out, and we have great pressure here. I get the fear off there, because we're still maintaining the pressure, and our go's going. We get him so low. He gets a sack off at 9% HP, and then it's the Frost DK's go. So what I do here is I put parry up, just because we're going to take huge amounts of spread pressure. I don't want to get cleaved and die with it. We get the Hodge on the HPAL, which is really good, right? And you see we continue to maintain our pressure on this Frost DK, who doesn't have too much. I throw the stun there, which is an accident, really. I kind of didn't realize that he was on stun DR, just my bad. Make sure with this cleave, because you have a lot of stuns, you need to really like watch your DRs a lot. So they go get a stun blind on my healer, who's kind of still okay. The Ret's healing himself a lot, but the rest doesn't have a bubble. He doesn't have too much right now. And I try and get this kick, and what I do here is, because I don't want to get cleaved and force my healer to use even more mana, I just hit the Holy Paladin by myself and just avoid this cleave for a bit. I stun his heal, and I'm just putting a lot of pressure while my DK is still pumping out this Frost DK, which still creates this sort of really, really hard situation to deal with, right? Because now the HPAL has to heal both of them. He has to swap his beacon over, and you know, it makes it really awkward for him. The Ret sacks my Disc Priest, who was getting swapped onto, and now is taking damage, pretty considerable amount of damage from both sources. And the grip comes out a leap kick here. I see he was casting that really slow Holy Light, and he probably needed that for the Word of Glory. and to sort of continue his chain of healing. So you know, the Frost DK is sort of peeling back here. He's running away. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to box both of these guys out, and then I'm swapping onto the warrior. Just because if the Frost DK is running, I'd rather get uptime on something. We get his parry straight away, and I notice that they're trying to do a setup here. So I don't really want to go in deep until I'm sort of 100% sure that I'm going to be safe. Because the warrior is not really next to the Frost DK, I just chuck the fear out, and I'm waiting here until I have a stun. Throw the spear. We have the dome, so they can't really do anything to us. And I just Blade Storm through everything. The warrior is taking a huge amount of damage as well. I don't know from intervene or just cleave damage, and we swap to him and finish him off in a second, right? He's taking pretty big damage now, but he's kind of been on 6k for a while. Colossal Smash comes out and we get the executes, right? So while the Frost DK was the main target, when you cleave versus cleave, you should really be looking at every possible target there. There's huge options. So jump to the next clip really quickly, because I think it's the next game. Some of these queues were really long. So this comp is Turbo versus Ret Warrior, which is something you'll probably see quite often. Just looking at my PvP times for a long time there. I run Storm of Destruction here just so I can get more Blade Storm damage and just pump. I kind of figure I just want to do huge damage this game and just create pressure that way. The dome comes out on us on that Chain Harvest, and we look at the H-Power who's kind of stuck in the middle of the map, right? And from that swap alone, right, that's a big deal. When you see a Holy Paladin and you have a Hodge on him and he's not kind of reacting and his teammates are kiting, just hit the Holy Paladin. You guys kill Holy Paladin so quickly. Rets usually do huge damage to H-Powers in general. So we'll continue with the clip. Here I'm just Blade Storming, getting spread pressure out on everything. Overall, like whenever this guy tries to kite, I'm really just looking at hitting whatever. I get a fear on the enhancement, and then I stun the Holy Pally, which is sort of Misk, right? I don't really know what I was trying to do here, but I kind of see the warrior sort of overextended here, so I kind of call swap to the warrior, and we jump on top of him. We get a little bit of pressure out here, and it kind of brings the enhancement shaman back into the mix. He's a Venthyr warrior, so he's going to be doing pretty big damage to my Ret Paladin, and me for that matter. And the Hex comes out there, and I'm sort of just kiting because I don't want to take too much damage while my healer's going to get CC'd. I see that the healer is also getting stunned, and like the H-Pell's trying to get a stun here. And that's going to be a really big deal. So here I drop the banner firstly to try and stop any follow-up CC, but unfortunately I think my healer's a bit out of range. And then what I do is I see the Ascendance, which is going to be really, really big, and I'm just trying to like pump him as much as possible, keep up that pressure. I throw the spear down on both of them so they're kind of kited and locked into one spot. And then I'm looking for the Blade Storm and everything. The H-Power is sort of stuck in the middle, so we swap onto the H-Power, potentially force even more buttons. He doesn't actually have too much left. He has no bubble. He gets the Divine Toll off on himself, and I get polyed. I trinket the poly there just to stay offensive and maintain pressure on this guy, and we have a Sharpen on him. My Ret's kind of not able to connect right now. I get War Stomped, and he gets a big heal. My healer gets a big heal off. I'm trying to avoid being in this cleave, so that's why I'm hitting the healer. And, you know, the healer still doesn't have too many buttons to live right now. The Bop comes out, so we can't really kill him then. He gets dispelled, but he kind of tops himself with that Bop. So the wall comes out from the Enhancement Shaman, and we Dome, right? Which is a pretty good reaction, just because we see they're pumping a lot of damage onto us, and Dome's a pretty good reaction to, you know, damage while you need to sort of line and avoid CC. This is where it gets dicey. I see huge damage. My Disc Priest is and he gets put into a Hodge. The Holy Paladin's casting Repentance, but you know, I put the fear onto the Shaman who trinkets it, and my Ret Paladin's just kiting. He's got freedom on himself and he's just running. We see the swap onto the H-Power, who's now out of position because he pushed in on us, and the full stun comes out with a spear. Deadly combo here. There's not really many outs. And Divine Toll comes out, and we get a lot of buttons from the entire team, and then Blade Storm on top of that, right? The Blade Storm on top usually just exacerbates the situation, because you just have pressure going on everyone, and then the enhancement just falls over, and that kind of just happened like in this, right? My Red Pally still got wings out. He's not really getting healed. The rally's about to fall 46%. The rally falls. He gets domed there. So it's just about creating as much pressure as possible. Look at healers when you're having trouble creating pressure, because usually Red Pally Warrior Disc is insane at killing healers, and just Ret Warriors in general very, very strong at killing healers. So that's the final clip there I want to show. I want to include more clips throughout the week. Obviously, don't have too much time with this video. I don't want to make it too long. Trying to shorten down the videos to be more concise and compact. So hope you enjoyed this. I will include more and more content regarding Ret Warrior. I know a lot of people are interested in it, so trust me, I'm going to be pushing for that. All right, guys, take it easy. Have a good one.